have a secret. I haven't put up my Christmas tree yet. I just really haven't found the time or the Christmas spirit. So I was hoping the first new Christmas horror movie of the year would get me in the festive mood. And for me, that's It's a Wonderful Knife, which just got released on Shudder. The film opens with Justin Long like you've never seen him before or heard him. He's the big shot in town, the money grubber, playing Henry Walters with a fresh, thick layer of spray tan and a bizarre hairstyle. But although he does steal the show at the start, the film is through the perspective of Winnie. And we follow Winnie to a Christmas party where she comes face to face with a killer slashing their way through the small town. And while that could lead to its own timeline and story, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because this is not quite that type of slasher. Winnie puts an end to the chaos and carnage, propelling the film into the direction of A Wonderful Life, where she must reflect on her choices of this faithful night and see how it's changed the town's direction, impacting its new history and changing her view on Christmas forever. I was really interested in this idea. It's very intriguing, and when you think about it, all of the final shots of slashers, well-known iconic slashers, feature the stereotypical blanket draped over the survivor's shoulders as they're waiting in the ambulance, crane shot, fade to black. But what happens to the civilian who actually slays? The hero who takes someone else's life, whether they're evil or good. Usually they're evil. What are the after effects of this? We don't usually find out until the sequel, and that's where A Wonderful Knife is different. Because it starts at this part of the story and it asks, what is next? What after the carnage? Another thing that sets this film apart is its interpersonal relationships. Of course, this has been done pretty well by some horror movies, especially recent ones. I still feel like it needs props for the particular detail it gives to the characters. Not only do they show diversity within the characters, but also within the family dynamic. The holidays are hard for a lot of people, and seeing how different the family structure experience is an important reflection of how society actually is. But I hear you, not everyone is here to feel something. Some of us want some escapism, and let me tell you, A Wonderful Knife does live up to its name with some delicious carnage. It has some really fun, gory moments, and they're splattered throughout the whole film. But let's talk about stylization. There's some very nice aspects visually, and they take full advantage of the Christmas lights at every opportunity with a lot of bouquet. That's a Japanese word, okay? Don't come for me. That is how it's actually pronounced. And although this works with the Christmas festivity kind of theming, it's really interesting what they do with the attack scenes. It's the complete opposite with explosive, high energy, strobing lights and cool tones. I actually really like that there is complete contrast in these, because it is showing the soft and warm side of Christmas, but then also the cold, which some climates do have during Christmas. And I just liked these together. I thought that was a really cool aspect of the film, capturing both at the same time. Seems obvious, but Christmas is just so good visually, especially in horror movies. And then there's also some nice classical Christmas bedding music that bookends the spirit of the film really nicely. But with all of this in mind, the film is under 90 minutes, so how do they fit this all in? It's got the wonderful life, self-reflection, detailed characters, and well laid out connections, and of course the survivor in turmoil. Oh, and the slashings. And depending on your preferences, this is going to be a pro or a con, because some of these detailed moments aren't fully fleshed out. For some, they'll feel like this film is not fleshed out properly with everything they're throwing at you, every single aspect and detail. They do not stay on anything for too long. And for others, they'll love that it's fast-paced and doesn't stay still for long. This film is anything but boring, but just when you accept one part of the puzzle, you're on to the next. And I felt that this was a little bit confusing in its message. It kept me highly engaged with the gore scenes and erratic explanation of events. It did end up being a good balance of emotional bait and horror. And I mean, that's what a Christmas horror movie should be. But I can't help but wonder that if it had slowed down and focused on just one of its subplots or underlining messages, it may have resonated a little bit more instead of flashed by. And I do have one thing that kind of threw me off the entire film. Although I think that the characters were given a lot of care and detail into their write-up, their backstories, because of the fast-paced aspect of the film and them trying to jam as much information in as possible and really throw you off by jolting around. They had to rely on intense dialogue to get emotions and perspectives across fast, which leads to some slightly cringy moments. I wish there was as much care given to the dialogue as there were to the characters themselves. The one-liners in a rush without the proper lead-in felt a little bit inauthentic. I felt like the actors were really trying to push it and they really wanted to go for a high emotional impact on this film, so because it's a little bit rushed, it does feel a little bit forced. Overall, if you're into Christmas horror movies, this should go on Santa's list, although I would recommend more of a Sunday matinee instead of a main feature on Christmas Day. I enjoyed this film for what it was, and I do think it had an interesting perspective, but I do feel like a lot of it was rushed through, and that's okay. It's fine for a slasher, but they did try and really jam in some emotional elements, which again, I love, but it just didn't fit the runtime. I would have actually liked this film to go a little bit longer and really develop some of those relationships a little bit more, or at least just maybe focus on one or two of them because there was a lot going on. There are so many couples in this film. Like there's so many little love flings going on. It's insane. I'm gonna give this film a 6 out of 10. That is still on the positive side, but just. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 for its score. I do think it has some good gory moments and they are splattered, as I said, throughout the whole film, which is a real bonus. It wasn't like it was just one bit at the start and the end, so I really enjoyed that. And for originality, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Have you seen It's a Wonderful Knife? Let me know down below, and if you're looking to see what else is out this month, I've done a whole list for you. If you want to sit at home under your Christmas tree and watch horror movies all night, it is possible. Just click this video here. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.